Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Out doing a little scouting for deer season. It's coming up this weekend here for us locally. I don't know about where you're at, but it looks like it might be a pretty good year. I've seen actually in all my runnings around in my woods and the woods around me, quite a few deer, good signs. I think it may be a pretty good year, so anxious about that. I want to mention to you a fellow friend of ours business that you should probably go check it out. This is not it's not something a paid promotion, okay? And it's not an affiliate, so it's not like I'm getting money out of anything that you buy. This is a good friend of ours, and you should probably check them out if you're interested in this kind of stuff, especially for you men. You could buy this for your ladies. It's called graftedandgracecreations.com. Don't worry about memorizing that, because I'm going to leave links in the description and in the comments. It's some friend of ours, and they make soaps and creams and ointments and all that kind of stuff. It's all handmade. It's all organic, it's all natural, it's all clean stuff. And I use it. We use it. And I haven't used store-bought type soaps and shampoos in years. I've made my own, we've made our own, or we've bought things that other people have made. And I'm telling you, this stuff is the best. I don't exactly know what all she does to it, but the lather is amazing. I know she's been selling a lot to the Amish, which says a lot because they know how to do this kind of stuff. And the Amish are buying it from her because they said it's the best handmade soap they've ever had. It is so thick, luxurious lather. That's what I use for she has a shampoo bar, and I use that for my hair, which, it's not as much as there used to be there, but I also use it on my beard. And I'm telling you, it just lathers up thick. It's like you're putting whipped cream all over you. But anyways, prices are good, and it's not them little tiny bars. It's the big bars. Graftedandgracecreations.com, link in the description and in the comment section below. You're helping out a local believer family. You're not sending your money off to some big corporation. We keep our money in our own tribes, and that's super important. What if I told you, I don't even know where this video is going to go. This is just a thought. What if I told you that everything that's happening in the world today was all planned out? Maybe years, decades, even centuries in advance. What if I told you that what's happening right now in the Middle East was already planned? And I'm not talking planned like Hamas was planning on attacking Israel. And I'm talking about the whole thing was planned out, that it was all being done and orchestrated by powerful people for a very long time. That may sting some of you, because it would mean that the parties on both sides are involved in the planning. We're not saying, and I'm not saying, that all of these other groups were planning on attacking one group, or it is the same way that, China and Russia and all of them were planning on attack. I'm saying that everybody's involved in the planning. The United States, Israel, Middle East, Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, Europe, NATO, all these countries, or at least people within them. Maybe not every head of state is in on it. Maybe not every senator or prime minister or whatever, but there are players in the system that's in integral positions in each place, nation, and company that are very much involved in planning this out. I firmly believe that. There's an ample amount of evidence. Maybe it's not conclusive. Maybe some of it's circumstantial. Maybe some of it's not solid. But there's too much to just discount this as just some crazy conspiracy theory. This is something that I was actually thinking of. I saw it. I remember reading this years ago, and then it's kind of come back up after this Israel-Hamas thing. And I don't know how many of you have looked into this, but there was a Confederate general named Albert Pike he was also the Grand Poobah or whatever, Grand Master of the Illuminati. He was a 33rd degree Freemason, apparently very much intertwined into the globalist elites of the 1800s. Apparently, he wrote a letter back in 1870 something, talking about how these Illuminati globalist elites. I know I'm getting into some crazy. I don't have any aluminum foil on me. I don't have any aluminum foil on me. I'm not very prepared. I should have that on me right now because they're probably probing my brain talking about this. But he wrote this letter to some dude in, was it France or Spain or somewhere? I don't remember. And he talked about these world wars that must happen for them to take over the world. And he talked about World War I, World War II, and World War III. And the things that he said in World War I and World War II happened almost precisely to a T. Now, a lot of this kind of came to light a decade or two ago, and there's been people that speculated that it was all fake. You know, they claim that in the as late as the 1970s that this letter was in some British museum, and then now it's gone, and the people that run the museum in Britain claim that it never existed, and there's other people that say that they've seen it. And a lot of people think that it was just something that was written afterwards. But the point is that the information in this letter has been talked about. In fact, you can find it on websites that are years old. Now, I'm not saying something that happened that's been published just in the last few weeks. We're talking years old, okay? So even if the predictions of World War I and World War II were all made up and it was all written after the fact to make it look like it was a prediction that happened in the 1870s or 1880s, even though it didn't, there was a World War III prediction in there. And that was all published long before what's happening right now. And if you read it, it sounds so eerily similar to what's happening right now. Is it something or is it nothing? I don't know. I'm just giving this as one example. I don't want everyone to kind of lose their heads too much. I'm sure there's going to be some that buy into it, and there's others that's going to say, my goodness, why are you going off on these crazy conspiracy theory trails? This is a homesteading and prepper channel. I don't want to hear about any of this kind of silliness that doesn't exist. You know, I had some, people always asking, well, what about the Georgia Guidestones? And what about this? And what about that? Some of it may be real. Some of it may just be distraction. I suspect that all of it is somehow a psychological operation used against us. The point is that I believe that the vast majority of the stuff that we're seeing happen, whether it be economic stuff, U.S. dollar, stuff in the Middle East, China, Ukraine, Russia, pandemic, all of these protests and riots that we've seen for the last few years, I would say the vast majority of it has been very much planned by both sides, because there are no sides at that level, okay? That's what we got to stop believing in. We got to stop believing is that there's, the good guys and the bad guys at that level. That there's, the globalists, and there's these evil cabal, and then there's these good guys. It doesn't work like that, folks. There may be some that are better than others. I would admit to that. But in the end, they're all playing their part in a game that's against us. The comedian George Carlin once said it right. It's a big club and you ain't in it. And that's the absolute truth, I believe. And this, what we're seeing, and again, I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but what we're seeing with Israel and Hamas, I believe it's all part of their plan. What we've seen with Russia and Ukraine, we're going to see it with Taiwan and China and the United States and Iran and Turkey and North Korea and all of this stuff. We're watching countries all around the world kind of pull out from Israel. They're recalling their ambassadors. They're cutting diplomatic ties. It's all being done for a purpose, folks. It's all being done. It's a big distraction. And it's to set things into motion so that they will end up at a predetermined point that will cause the people in power to be able to have more power and to take more from us and to control us more and to manipulate us more. We have to remember this kind of stuff. I don't have all the answers. I don't have some crystal ball that I can see what's going on. I can just figure it out. It's too obvious. It's too obvious. These things don't just all of a sudden start happening. You know, in the last 3 years and 3 or 4 years, it's just become overwhelmingly chaotic. And who knows? You know, we've got banks. You know, another bank collapsed the other day. I heard from someone, and this is not verifiable information, so please don't hold me to this. But I heard someone that I know personally that works for a big bank, and I'm not talking just a teller. They work on the inside, the back end of it, you know, the higher up. And that the executives in the bank are telling them that over the next 6 to 12 months, expect to see hundreds, if not thousands, of banks in the United States fail and being consolidated down to just a few handful of banks. Their bank is already working on switching over to central bank digital currency. Their bank is already working on switching over to artificial intelligence controlling things. No, I'm not going to tell you which bank, because I don't want to give away the person that's potentially, you know, might find out their identity. You could believe it or not, it doesn't matter. The point is this is all being done for a purpose, folks. It's you don't have to believe what I'm about to say. I know most of you do, but some of you don't. It's setting up the beast system. And even though these people aren't, you know, pulling out their Bibles and like, okay, now what do we have to do that puts us in alignment with what's going on in Scripture? They're not doing that necessarily. They're doing what they're doing because they believe it gives them power. They believe that it puts them into a more of a, in a position where they become kind of a deity almost. And that we turn our backs on God, that we realize that look at this religious holy war that's happening in the Middle East. It's going to kill thousands and thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people. Religion must be bad. You know, we need to trust in these elites and their computers and their AI and their generosity to bring about world peace, right? It's all being done for a purpose, and we cannot allow ourselves to get so caught up in it that we forget that it's not really about the left or the right or Israel versus Palestine or Russia versus NATO or China versus the United States or the Democrats versus the Republicans. It's us versus them. It's God's side versus Satan's side. I mean, that's where it really boils right down to it. And we have to see through that. And we have to prepare accordingly. And when we realize things on that level, and we realize that they are purposely orchestrating the destruction of our society, I think that they probably knew that it was going to happen naturally, because all societies rise and fall. That none of them last forever. So I suspect at some point in history, they're like, hey, we know that this Western society that we've built is unsustainable. We know that how we've done it, and then with the economy and the leftist ideology, all these things, it's not sustainable. So we know it's going to collapse. So instead of allowing it to happen or trying to stop it from happening, and we're not going to be able to, let's cause it to happen in the way that we want it to happen. You know, you're in a plane and the engines start failing or whatever it is, and you know that plane is going to crash. A good pilot is going to try to control that plane if he can, to get it to crash in a way that is least damaging, that is most survivable, right? If it's possible, he's going to do that. If it's possible, he's going to try to control that plane to get it to crash. He knows it's going to crash, but he's going to try to control that crash in a way that it's beneficial to the survivability of the passengers. And I think that that's what it is. And it's not so much that we survive, it's that they, the ones in charge, survive. I know this is a really deep conspiracy rabbit trail, but I believe that that's pretty much the solid truth, at least from my perspective. And when we see things that way, and then we act accordingly and we prepare accordingly, mentally, physically, and spiritually, I think it kind of changes the perspective. We're not just preparing for another Great Depression or another world war. We're preparing for controlled destruction of our civilization. We really are. Now, that's what this Great Reset is. It's not to change things up, to create a new normal. It's to destroy things and have something in its place to kind of change it. Remember, I've used the analogy, if you remember watching that Indiana Jones, and I don't remember which one it was, but the famous scene in Indiana Jones where there's an artifact and it's a pressure switch, and if he takes it off, it causes it to go up. So he takes he has the artifact there, and he has a bag of sand. Whoop, I can't even hold on to a canteen, and he tries to do that kind of thing. You know that scene in Indiana Jones? Yeah. That's what they're trying to do. They have this system that they've built behind the scenes, right? And so they're trying to push it over. They're going to collapse this one and just pretty quickly replace it with something new. That's what we're seeing happen. And they have to cause a lot of chaos, and they have to cause a lot of fear in the people so that we will rely on them, that we will trust them when they tell us that you have to give up all these rights and property and privacy and thoughts and everything. It's all being done for a purpose. We need to prepare accordingly for that level of destruction, because that's what's happening. It may be weeks ahead, it may be months ahead, it may be decades ahead. Probably not that far. I'm thinking probably no more than the next 5 to 10 years, probably a lot less than that. I'd say most of it's going to happen over the next 12 months. We have an election in 12 months, and they can't allow that to kind of go the way they don't want it to go. So, there's going to be a lot of chaos. And we have to prepare for that. We have to build tribe and community so that we can have others like us to ride out these end times. Folks, you need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.